During the reign of King Henry II, England became part of the European Empire, with Henry ruling land that went from Hadrian's Wall in Scotland to the Pyrenees Mountains between modern-day France and Spain. The land in France was under constant threat from the King of France, being gradually lost by Henry's sons, King Richard I and, in particular, King John. King John's armies were defeated in Normandy in 1204, losing a large territory that had been part of the kingdom since the Norman invasion of England in 1066. It would be over 100 years before the English armies would be able to take back territories that they had previously claimed as part of their kingdom. The French king confiscated most of the remaining English territory in France in 1337, something that the reigning King Edward III of England did not accept. As a nephew of the previous French king, Edward III declared himself the rightful king of all of France and in 1346, invaded France, thus starting the 100-Year War. The forces of King Edward III that marched into Normandy were severely weakened by a plague outbreak and were pinned down on the banks of the River May, near Crécy, having avoided a pitched battle with the French forces, but were now outnumbered by at least 3-1. The English archer's longbow, however, gave the English a major advantage. This was an incredibly powerful weapon, capable of killing armored knights and their horses. This battle was disastrous for the French, with the English having positioned themselves at the top of a hill, and the French trying to ride up the slope to reach them. This long, uphill climb on wet ground slowed down the French horses and gave the English archers and foot soldiers lots of opportunities to inflict major damage to the French. This was a huge English victory, and these tactics would be employed throughout the 100 Years' War, famously at Poitiers in 1356 and Agincourt in 1415. A significant turning point in the war was the English victory at Agincourt, where the French had an army of 24,000 defeated by the English army of 6,000. This victory for King Henry V gave the English the momentum to regain lost territory. King Henry V secured the English position between 1415 and 1422. He forced the French king, Charles VI, to name him as his heir and went on to marry Charles's daughter, Catherine, to further strengthen his dynastic right to the French throne. This dynastic claim was, however, left hanging in the balance upon King Henry V's death. Catherine and Henry's son, Henry VI, was crowned King of England and France, but many of the French supported the Dauphin, King Charles VI's son, and he was crowned King Charles VII of France in 1422. King Charles VII's popularity grew when he allowed a peasant girl, Joan of Arc, who claimed to have visions from God, to lead his army to victory during a siege against the English and their French allies, the Burgundians. Following this defeat, the Burgundians were convinced to abandon their allegiance to the English, and they joined King Charles VII's forces instead. The English had been forced out of their last strongholds in southwest France by 1453, and the 100 Years' War was over. The 100 Years' War brought out a strong sense of identity for the English, initially confined to where their victories of Crécy, Poitiers and Agincourt were celebrated. However, it did later help maintain unity in France against the forces of King Charles VII and the Burgundians. Calais, England's last possession in France, was captured in 1558, which ended 500 years of English presence in France. By this time, other European powers, such as Spain and Portugal, were exploiting the newly discovered Americas and growing wealthy from these resources, so England shifted its focus west and moved across the Atlantic to build new empires in North America and the Caribbean.